the 19th century, especially after the January uprising and after the November uprising, because there was this short period of time after the Congress of Vienna in 1815 when you had the liberal Tsar Alexander II in power, and he did view, in general, there was the Polish Congress Kingdom that had autonomy at least, and there was some room for Warsaw to grow. After the January uprising, again, there are a couple of difficult years, but by 1875, so more or less after 11-12 years after the uprising had been quelled, there comes a new mayor to town, Socrates Starinkiewicz, probably the only Russian that the Poles, the Varsovians at least, still have any fond memories of. His name still gives name to the square, Starinkiewicz Square, that is not far from the Warsaw Central Station. He is well liked because he views Warsaw as his own personal project. He is very ambitious, and he decides to introduce a number of infrastructure projects that greatly improve the quality of life for people in the city. Probably the most important one of those projects is the decision to take in a British engineer, William Lindley, who builds this great waterworks that is complemented by a great network of water lines that gives finally potable water to practically all parts of the city. And as cherry on top, he also builds a great sewage system. So finally, cholera, for example, that had been a problem for forever, those cases really start dropping. In general, the worst parts of the city where living conditions are the worst, and where there is the largest concentration of people, he does take measures for people to live in slightly better sanitary conditions. So typhus, for example, is also another problem that slightly improves during his era. And then finally, unfortunately, we have another couple of years for the city that aren't really great. This is the First World War and the immediate years following the First World War. So this period of 1914 to 1920-21 is a period in which Warsaw again suffers. The Russians, they leave the city after 1 year. The German army marches in 1915, and there are some different ideas about what this could mean. Some Poles are hopeful. They think that this could be the start of Poland regaining its independence. And the Germans in 1916 create a so-called Regency Council in the city, which is this semi-autonomous body, on paper at least, because in reality it's still wartime, and naturally the Germans, they have the final call on every important matter, but they try to create this illusion that they are willing to give the Poles more political liberties than the Russians did. So some Poles view this as a great development, but it has to be said that some other Poles, at that time Warsaw had been in Russian hands since the Congress of Vienna, at least formally. They had been in Russian hands since 1812, and the disastrous defeat of Napoleon in Moscow, and the Russian army chasing him back to France. So for more than 100 years, the Poles had been under Russian occupation, the Poles in Warsaw, naturally. So there had been a strong pressure of Russification, language-wise, education, an attempt at co-opting the elites by giving them chances of great careers in St. Petersburg, either in the political administration of the Russian Empire or as military commanders. So there had been some progress in the Russification of Warsaw, and some people were weeping when the Russian troops were retreating out of the city, saying that our boys are leaving town.
Yeah, well, that's probably a good moment at which to pause, because inevitably, as ever, we've been defeated by the clock.
Yes, I will just add that, of course, naturally, the vast majority of Poles were patriotic at the time and wanted the Russians nothing more than to leave.
Yes, well, we'll continue the story next time. There we are, defeated by the clock again. We will pick up the story next time, so please join us again on Poland Daily History. Thank you for watching. Adam, as usual, the clock is defeated. I'm just going to have to ask you to pause there, but we will pick it up next time. There we are. I've interrupted Adam almost in mid-sentence, but we will pick up the story next time on Poland Daily History, so please join us then. In the meantime, thank you for watching.